back to the Catholic Messenger Conversations, our monthly podcast with Bishop Thomas Zinkula. I am Barbara Arlen Fye, your host. Today we're going to focus on the bishop's experience confirming youths in our diocese and the heart-to-heart conversations he has with them in the hour or so before their confirmation mass. So, Bishop, how much time do you set aside to talk with these kids before the confirmation mass? And how do you get the conversation started?
So, kind of what happens, Barb, is so I get there and I have to get things ready for Mass because I'm kind of flying solo these days. I don't have an MC or anything because the pandemic is just me.
I love that.
Yeah, so it's so I have to get things set up for Mass, and I have to look at the sacramental register books for at every parish. So it takes me a chunk of time, and I'm a canon lawyer, so I'm way more particular than probably your average bishop would be on that sort of thing, and just making sure everything, I have to sign off on them since the last time I was there. So all those records with the sacraments. And then so I'm doing all those kinds of things, and then I try this like maybe a half hour before, whatever works for them, and I try to set aside like 15 minutes or so. So it's actually sometimes I go longer, but so that's what I try to do, and in terms of at the beginning, I initially when I came and became bishop, the sponsors would be there, maybe the parents. So I eventually just said no. I just want the students because they shut down. They're already They're already intimidated by the bishop. It's hard, So and even more so, and so it helps to have just the youth.
So do you like me. How are you dressed when you're? I mean, are you wearing your chasuble and everything, or are you in your black?
I mean, generally, it depends on if it's kind of. If we're cutting it close, then I'll have a chasuble on. But normally I just have my clerics on. Okay. So I'm just in there, and and it's hard. It's kind of they're quiet. Yeah. And there's the bishop, and they don't know what to do with me. So so I do what I can to break the ice, and sometimes I'm more successful than others. How do you break the ice? You tell a bad joke or something? I don't know, I'll say something like pretend I'm a confirmation student. Yeah, no, I'll say, okay, here's something they didn't tell you about, but it's a new thing I'm doing, and I have a basket, I have all your names in there on a slip of paper, and then, after communion, I'm going to draw a name, and one of you gets to talk about what the sacrament means to you, and just how you felt celebrating the sacrament, and you can't talk longer than 10 minutes, and they take me seriously almost always, and then they're like looking at each other and that jerk, what is he doing, so then I'm like, just kidding, whatever. So God. Just want to get advance notice so you can think of something to say during the Mass. But I tell them, I actually say, I have something I always have something ready to talk about, but if you want to talk about something else, fine, we can, whatever you want to talk about. So normally they don't take me up on that. Yeah. But, so does anyone volunteer? They say, well, I'd like to talk about this, or do you just go ahead and jump in and ask? Normally they don't respond. Well, once in a while somebody will. Somebody will. I can't remember the last time somebody was asking. I can't remember what it was, but no, it just the size of the group makes a difference. Oh yeah. The smaller group, the better. If they all go to the same school, they know each other, that helps. Yeah. The atmosphere. Sometimes they have the chairs kind of real formal. Yeah. I mean, one of the best conversations recently was at a parish, I won't say names and stuff, but where I was like in kind of like this, and it was a number of kids, but it was a large sort of like in the rectory, the living room kind of thing. And it was very informal, and we had a great conversation. They chatted, and but sometimes. Can you talk a little bit about what you talk about? I mean, some of the specific. I mean, do they volunteer how they're feeling, or are they still pretty? Yeah, no, reserved. They're reserved for sure. Yeah. So sometimes they will volunteer. I'll ask a question. They'll raise their hand. Otherwise, I'll just call on somebody. And. Just depending, and sometimes there's more of a conversation. Other times it's more me just talking. If it's just a lot of work and they're not running to open up, then I'll just talk more. And do you ever talk about your own confirmation with them, or? I don't remember my own confirmation at all. I don't remember mine at all either. Pictures, that's about the only thing I. Right.
I don't remember how old I was when I made my confirmation. I think they did confirmation when I was in 5th grade.
Yeah, I was maybe 8th grade or something, or 7th. Okay. It was, I think, middle school.
What about during COVID? I mean, are you seeing any differences in the kinds of things kids talk about with you during this time as opposed to when you first...
Well, I'm leading the conversation normally, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of but I've been talking about COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, here it is. Why
Yeah.
ignore it? It's the context for this thing.
Right.
And so I've been talking about COVID and the Paschal mystery and how
Right.
here we are in the situation. What does our faith have to do with this? I mean, how does our faith help us to deal with this and to learn from it and stuff? So that's what I've been focusing on is the Paschal mystery, dying and rising.
But I meant even with your conversations ahead of time with the kids.
That's my conversation ahead of time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I'm having.
Okay.
That's not what I'm preaching on.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the Paschal mystery. So it's Easter season.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
So that's kind of where we're at right now too. So that's life.
Yeah.
Right. There's what's life. There's there's suffering in life, and there's dying. Little deaths that we experience, deaths of relationships or dreams or whatever it is, and then there's new life. There's rising from those things. Easter. I mean, we base our faith on the passion, the suffering, dying, and rising of Christ. That's everything for us, and that's life basically too. So
right.
We talk about what are some hard things you've been dealing with because of COVID, in your personal life, in your family, school, and all that. So I ask them, and they usually have something to say. Sometimes things that you would expect. Other times some more kind of profound things.
Yeah.
And
anything that really jumps out at you. Someone has mentioned?
Yeah. No, they'll talk about things like being things that they've taken for granted, and there's they're more grateful for some things that have that they realize. And the one thing I talk about is that earthly life is transitory. There's material things. It's good. It's God created us all good, and He wants us to live in the world, but not be of the world. But
right.
So we do these things, but it can all be taken away so quickly. We see that with this.
Yeah.
Just our freedom to come and go and everything, especially last summer, if you remember what that was like. And school, boom.
Right. Yeah.
Online, and all of a sudden, and health, life, people, have died. Obviously, lots of people, and like relationships can be impacted dramatically. They'll talk about extended family that are not able, like their grandparents, aunts, and uncles that have, and they miss them. And so I talk about that. So there's the suffering, and so where's the new life in this thing? Where's, and then and what's been something that's been good that's come out of this thing?
Right.
And they'll tell me, like I remember one that I've kind of been sharing a little bit. Like if they don't talk about that kind of thing, I'll share some things I've heard from other classes. And this one young woman was saying, her and her sister weren't really getting along that well. Her sister graduated from high school in the spring, so there they are together in that summer. They're at home, and rather being out and about as much as they would normally be, and so they there was grace. They developed a closer relationship, and she recognized her sister wasn't going to be around that much. She's going to college and she'll be home for breaks, but otherwise she's kind of starting her life on her own. And so she saw that as that time together because of the pandemic as a time of grace.
Wow.
So that things like that, and we'll talk about, what are they doing with they have extra time? Anybody spend that, more time in prayer?
Are they spending more time in prayer?
Some of them will talk about that. I mean, probably, I don't know, most of them maybe not formally, but being more reflective and thinking about things more deeply. Hopefully something like this causes us to do that. And probably it has at some level for lots of them.
How old are most of these kids? Are they 14, 15? And does the age affect how receptive they are to that message about transitory?
It's there anywhere from, I think in our diocese it can be, I think 8th grade to like juniors or something, so
yeah.
you get a mixed bag. You can have deeper conversations with the older kids, obviously.
Right, yeah.
And I think they're at a better place to kind of have a sense of kind of what's going on, in their lives and whatever. They're a little more mature, but so it depends on the kid too. I mean, there's one thing that I was just thinking about in terms of their own personal life. They'll tell me that about loneliness and and some mental health kinds of things, anxiety, maybe depression. They're people are more inclined to kind of name that.
Wow.
I mean, it's still pretty kind of hush kind of a thing, maybe in general, but more and more people are able to talk about that. So we'll talk about that and what do you do with that kind of a thing? How can God bring new life out of those if we invite Him into our lives? And
wow, have you heard anything that's really surprised you from any of the kids, or you've probably heard everything at this point, I suppose?
I wouldn't say nothing that's. I guess I am touched when they will just talk about, be more vulnerable, and when they will kind of go to a deeper place than I'd expected.
Yeah.
There's you can hear there's some profound things sometimes that they'll share, but your average kid is not. Here's the bishop and it's kind of somewhat public. These other kids around.
Yeah.
They're not inclined. Your average kid isn't inclined to say anything. Too surprising, maybe.
Right, yeah. Nothing out. No one ever calls you aside and says, hey, can I talk to you about something? Probably not, because they've met you for the first time.
Right, no, and there's not an opportunity for that kind of thing.
How well prepared are these kids, for the most part, to receive the sacrament of confirmation, do you think?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I don't quiz them.
Yeah.
Like it used to be in the old days. During the homily time at the Mass, they'd be asking, what are the 7 gifts of the Holy Spirit? And I mean, there was a time when I would talk about that kind of a thing in my conversation with them. Let's talk about the gifts and the fruits of the Holy Spirit. And sometimes you could tell when they were kind of primed for that in terms of, by their teacher and maybe expecting me to, or they just learned it just as part of the normal course of studies. But I don't really. Yeah. That's not my.
I remember,
objective.
When my youngest son was going through confirmation and was about to be confirmed, we had to meet with the pastor and answer some questions. And one of them was, the pastor said, "What is the greatest commandment from God?" And my son said, "To love God and your wife." That was pretty good.
Yeah. Right. No, that's the place for that kind of a thing. At this point, what am I going to do? No, I'm not going to confirm you because you don't have this answer.
And so, I'm wondering. Tell me a little bit about confirmation now in the time of this virus. I mean, you weren't even able to celebrate in person with kids last year, right? I mean, I'm thinking you.
No, last year I gave the faculties to the pastors to confirm if they wanted to. A lot of them took me up on that because they didn't, maybe they would just have a few at each Mass, and so there's going to be a number of Masses. So, but now I'm pretty much doing them all again. It's not often, but sometimes there'll be 2 because it's a large group of young people. So it's not unusual. I'll have back-to-back Masses. And in fact, I have that on Sunday somewhere. I think Our Lady of Victory or somewhere.
Right.
Somewhere at Sunday, a larger parish, there's 2 Masses, which is fine. So there's that. It's dumbed down a lot, to just like at Sunday Mass too. There's not a lot of singing, and there's, it's short. Things are shortened, and there was no servers, no photos, no receptions. There was one, I had Mass at, this was a while ago, but I think it was in the fall. It was at Mount Pleasant, St. Alphonsus, Mount Pleasant. And so Father Conley had fallen, and he, that week, and so he was in the hospital for a couple of days. So he was out of the hospital, but he couldn't walk and around very well. So he was in the rectory, so he wasn't there at all. There were no servers, no MC, no deacon. The director of the confirmation program had been exposed to someone with the virus, so she was quarantined. and maybe one of the candidates or two weren't there. So it was just me in the sanctuary all by myself.
Wow.
Which is very interesting. And so it's like, and I'm trying to find stuff and because they didn't have everything out exactly that I needed. And so I was kind of scrambling a bit because I had a confirmation earlier that day, so I couldn't get there real early. And but it's kind of fun too. It's just sort of more, more relaxed. And there's times I need to let go of the crozier and the mitre and so it's kind of a big sanctuary. So rather than going all the way back there to put it in the stand I have, there's a couple like grade school boys in the front pew over on the side. So it's like, here, hold this stuff. So
that's
of course
great.
so people get kind of have fun with that, and then I needed to hold my hands, extend my hands over them for the calling down the Holy Spirit.
Right.
And so I needed somebody to hold the book. So there's this high school kid over on this side who wasn't going to confirm, but he's probably a family member. So come over here and hold this book for me.
Oh, that's great.
So that was it actually was kind of fun, and people, they it's kind of lightens things up for them.
I think to see you doing all of that, handling your mitre and your crozier and the books and everything. It just seems just more down to earth. It seems more that you're the servant leader,
Yeah, you experienced that at your parish a couple weeks ago.
I did, and I thought that was really very moving. But you said at that time when I mentioned that to you, you said something too. Sometimes you need a little more of the ceremonial, right? Or
it depends on the situation and the liturgy, and and there's times it'd just be way too much for me.
Right.
I definitely need an MC. Even now with COVID, there's like the Chrism Mass, and the Triduum. The deacons were there at the cathedral. There wasn't an MC, but so things like that. I can't remember all how everything goes. I need somebody to sort of help me with things.
So you'll still use some of that. Do you think after COVID you'll make any changes?
Yeah, we'll see. Like I'm on my own at school masses, and just because it didn't seem it didn't seem like it'd be right to bother people to kind of for that kind of thing. So we'll see where things go. Yeah.
And then so I'm wondering too. Okay, first things first, I guess confirmation names. You had talked about confirmation names. Do you have you heard some really unusual confirmation names? Are you surprised by the names people choose?
It's lately it hasn't been as kind of interesting as it has been. Because I've actually done confirmations for quite a while as an Episcopal vicar in
Oh, that's right. I didn't think about that.
I was responsible for a part of the diocese. I did I presided confirmations then, so it wasn't like that was brand new when I came here. I never did it as a bishop, and I've heard some. I was trying to think about that beforehand. Some of the really crazy, because I've heard there's some really, really, really interesting ones that have been. I just can't remember. I can't remember specific examples. I wish I would have written some of them down because they're pretty funny. Some kids are candidates, I think they choose one that just because it sounds funny, or they don't even know anything about the person, but
exactly.
But these days, maybe the directors of the program are kind of more. I don't know. Maybe they had at one of their meetings that they've had together. They've talked about kind of helping, not letting them pick goofy names or whatever.
What's your confirmation name?
Mine is Joseph.
And did you choose that, or did your parents?
I chose it. My sponsor's name was Joseph. Was Joseph.
Oh, okay.
As part of it, but but just he himself too. Joseph, Saint Joseph. But sometimes, So sometimes they'll choose a name because I'll ask them. Beforehand, we'll talk about that, and why did you choose the name? Sometimes it's because of a family member, grandfather, grandparent.
Right.
That's cool. That's good. It doesn't have to be the saint exactly himself or herself.
Right.
There's a saintly, relative or friend or something. But
right.
They choose Sebastian as almost every confirmation. There's Sebastian, and I'll ask them when they say, "Okay, what's your sport then, or what are your sports?" because it's a patron saint of
Oh, yeah.
athletes.
Oh, okay.
So, I know,
Yeah.
I'm always right on that. That's
Yeah.
always why. And sometimes girls, it's not unusual that girls will choose male saints.
Oh,
That
do
never-
they occasionally?
Yeah, no, it's not unusual at all. And that used to
Wow.
be a very exceptional thing. It is still exceptional for a boy to choose, a female saint.
Oh, yeah.
But once in a while, maybe somebody will choose Mary or something. But
Uh-huh.
it's not unusual at all these days for a
I
girl
didn't
to-
realize that.
Just like I was thinking about, like sisters, they used to have male
Male names, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's so there'll be a young man, young woman who's Sebastian, Cecilia. Okay, well, you voice or instrument,
Yeah.
and it's always
Yeah.
something with music.
Yep.
Hubert, in rural areas sometimes, not unusual. And I'll ask, you like to hunt and fish? And yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Isidore, okay,
Yeah.
farmer.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's farmer, but sometimes it's a new one for me, actually. That Isidore of Seville, and I don't. And he was
Oh.
hundreds of years ago, but somehow I can't remember. I looked this up one time. I can't remember how this works, but he's a patron saint of the internet. So I'll say, "You're a gamer, aren't you?" Yeah, I'm a gamer.
Oh, that's great.
That's why they choose that name.
So do you actually remember all the reasons that these saints are the patron saints of
The
something?
common ones. I mean, these kinds
Okay,
of
the
saints.
common ones.
I mean, if they say, sometimes they'll say an apostle, Thomas, or
Uh-huh.
Peter or something, well, it's usually not because of the patron saint of something. It's because, who knows,
Yeah,
whatever.
maybe their father told
yeah,
them
it could
that
be
would
that.
be a good one to do.
Dymphna,
Oh, I've heard that one. Is that the one for mental
yeah,
illness?
that's not unusual.
Wow.
So then, I don't know what to say with that. Sometimes I'll say something about, there's kind of been some, I don't know, depression in the family or something, and
Wow.
but that's public, to kind of
Right.
to use those. That's interesting. Francis, a lot of times, a lot of Francises, you like animals or outdoors, yeah. So that's the thing for that. But Lucy, sometimes Mary Magdalene, sometimes Joan of Arc's a kind of a somewhat regular one,
Oh, wow.
a strong woman saint.
Uh-huh.
Elizabeth.
Wish I would have chosen that one.
Mother Teresa sometimes,
Wow, yeah.
which is kind of cool. Anthony, Therese, yeah.
Wow. I don't even remember what my confirmation name was. I wanted, I think, Kathleen, and I realize now I don't even think there was a Saint Kathleen, was there?
Oh, well, is that a derivation of Catherine?
Right. So, because my mother wanted me to choose Marie, and so I think we had to negotiate on that one.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing, in the ritual or anything that says anything about saints choosing a name of a saint. That's all
good.
tradition.
So it can be a derivative of it.
Well, you don't even have to do it. There are those who would say just go with your baptismal name. Baptism and confirmations, they're like two sides of the same
cool.
coin.
Yeah.
You don't need to choose another name.
Oh, that's great.
So, but mostly they do. But there's nothing that says they have to do that. It's just, it's I don't know. It's kind of taken on a new identity. It's like Saul becoming Paul,
Because I remember for the longest time when people would ask me what my full name was, and I'd say Barbara Ann Kathleen Arlen, or
it's
something
fine.
like
I mean,
that.
it's a good. I mean, I was just like saying, so Saul becoming Paul because it's
Yeah.
changed in his life. Abram
Yeah.
becoming Abraham.
Yeah.
I mean, Simon becoming Peter. It's
Yeah.
biblical.
Yeah.
It's taken on a new identity. It's totally it's fine. It's good.
Yeah.
But sometimes they, like one group, they'd ask their teacher what their saint's name was, their confirmation name was. So, I mean,
Yeah.
what's the point, really, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
if it doesn't mean anything to you, and it's just, you have to do this. So I mean, that they should be able to tell me about that, and not just because it was a funny sounding name.
Right.
And like sometimes when we're talking, one thing I'll do at the end is go through the ritual to make sure we're on the same page. And sometimes they haven't been trained very well.
Yes.
And then that just really takes away from it because they don't just say, and rather than experiencing this thing, they're trying to figure out how to respond to these. It's simple stuff, but
Yeah.
and I'll ask them. So we'll talk about saints' names and they don't, sometimes they don't know really what to say. So, again, what's the point? or if
Right,
it's just
yeah.
some goofy name. So I know what I was going to say. I'll ask her, who has the goofiest name, the one that I'm going to have most trouble pronouncing. And so then some kid will point to some other kid.
Oh, that's great.
And whatever.
Rat
and
on
sometimes
that
it's
person.
it's a name. It's not, they didn't choose it just because it's strange sounding, but it has some meaning for them. But
I would imagine their confirmation teachers probably and encourage them strongly to make sure that they have a purpose for choosing that name, right?
Yeah, I think probably more often that's the case.
And maybe they consult with them.
I think they're more serious about it maybe than, back.
So do you ask them ahead of time, like before Mass, what their confirmation name is, just to get an idea?
No, that's not. Yeah, that might be one thing I'd use to break the ice. Like what's her name, and I might not ask every kid. And then I'll do my thing with. A lot of times I'll know why they chose the name.
Yeah.
And then we can just what are your sports, or what's your instrument, or.
They're probably just amazed when you are able to do that, right?
Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes.
Then they know that you're really a godly person.
Yeah, or psychic or something.
So what about the with this being COVID, how have some of the rituals changed? I mean, like the anointing and the placing your hands over. I mean, you don't put your hands over their head anymore, do you? Bringing down the Holy Spirit.
I mean, even without the outside of the pandemic, if it's a large group, I don't lay my hands on their head because there's just too many.
Too many.
If it's like maybe under 10 or 12, I'll go and do that. So now it's for any size group, I'm just extending my hands over them, just because in terms of touch, and I use like a Q-tip or a cotton ball to anoint them. So you have to have enough of those, and then also peace be with you. I don't usually would shake hands. Just say it. So there's those kinds of things.
Oh yeah, I didn't notice that. Okay, when you were at our parish doing that, so you just say peace be with you and then just move on to the next person?
Yeah, we don't.
Is that hard? I mean, do you sometimes, you just want to automatically shake hands or what?
Not during the ritual, but when we're practicing ahead of time, almost always I put my hand out and then I'm like, oh yeah, we can't touch, so we'll just say it, and then once I'm in the rhythm, I don't think about extending my hand.
And so, are there any other changes you've made to accommodate the pandemic protocols?
There's they normally don't process in or process out.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And so it's just me coming in. Sometimes I come in out of the sacristy, very dumbed down. And like I said, no photos, no receptions. It's in the sponsors, they're kind of not. They don't put a hand on the shoulder. They're kind of a ways back, having that distance.
Do you see any of these changes carrying on post-pandemic?
No.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't want to carry on any of those kinds of things, really.
And what about, I guess I'm wondering too, age? Is there a particular age that if you were, ideally had an age for someone to be confirmed, what age do you think would be the best age?
Yeah, people have all kinds of opinions on that.
Yeah.
It's back to fully initiated when they're babies.
Yeah.
Like they do in the, Eastern
Catholic Church.
Eastern Catholic and Orthodox, the whole thing. You put, for the Eucharist, you put your thumb in the sacred blood and put on the lips of the baby. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. So you do it all. So there's people that say we should go back to that. And the other extreme is waiting till they're through the teenage years, where they're rebelling and stuff, where they until they're like young adults, like maybe, early 20s or something, but they really want this. People saying that.
Yeah.
And then everything in between. There's the restored order. And we're actually taking a look at that, just talking about it. There's a few dioceses where, baptized when they're babies, and then maybe when they're, age of reason,
like 7, is that?
or 8 or something, they're confirmed because the orders, baptism, confirmation, and then maybe Eucharist at that Mass or at 4th grade or something.
Oh, okay.
So but then people are scared because, how do you hold them in there then?
Right.
If you can hold them by just putting confirmation off for a while. You can kind of hold them as long as you can, So, which isn't the right way to
I
go
don't
about
think
it.
so.
You should have something that would force us to totally take a whole new look at how we do faith formation and religious education. So it's not just a sacramental thing, but it's lifelong.
Right.
And so we do these things somewhat early on, and then we've got something it continues after that. So, and there are those, like middle school, early high school, middle high school.
Maybe we need an RCIA, but called something else for Catholics who, for people who are already in the church. Because that's with the mystagogy and
I know.
sort of thing.
We have a lot of work to do to be lifelong faith formation. It really needs to be.
Yeah.
If we're going to be really serious about being disciples of Christ.
So maybe put off confirmation until someone's 65.
How do you do that though? Because people are so busy and priorities are otherwise. But
so that is something the diocese is looking at though right now.
We've actually, there's a group been studying it, and we need to, with COVID, it's kind of got slowed down.
Yeah.
But there's a group that's looked at that, and it's just looking at it, and we obviously, if we're going to go further with it, need to bring a lot more people into it, the conversation, because that's a huge deal.
Right.
But I don't know. Sometimes I wonder how well the way we do things now is working.
Yeah.
We lose a lot of young people, right?
Right.
So it's something that we're not doing very well. So
that's right.
There's not a huge risk to try something else. But we're not there yet by any means.
I think that's so interesting. I was going to ask you as a final question, because I know it's running late, but I was wondering about your homily. Do you have a sort of a theme each year for the confirmation homily, or?
Yeah, every year I have something that I run with rather than trying to come up with something, because this weekend I have 4 confirmations, so to have a different homily for everyone.
That would be challenging.
Crazy. So so this year I'm preaching on discernment, and discernment discernment of spirits. So it's like confirmation, Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is really it's a center of discerning.
Right.
Questions that we have in life, and issues, and just decisions that we have to make. So I just was thinking that's for all of us, but especially young people. They have lots of decisions that they're making in terms of especially as they get towards the end of high school, and but all along the way. So I'm focusing my homily on that.
That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, Bishop, it's been just always interesting to talk with you at these Catholic Messenger conversations. So look forward to next month. But we'll keep people surprised about what that topic will be.
Surprise me too. Okay.
Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. It's good. It gives me a chance to kind of take a look at things and
that's great.
More deeply.
Okay. Thanks a bunch, Bishop.
Sure, you bet. Thank you.
That's it today for Catholic Messenger Conversations.